I'm going to give a second here to get up and streaming, make sure that I am connected. As soon as I see some people pop into the chat, we'll get started here. All right, hit the like button on your way in. Let me know you're out there. All right, welcome back to Blackstone Intel. Good to see you again. I'll probably see a couple of you guys that we saw during the early morning 6-hour live stream. Let me know if you're hearing me okay out there in the chat. Make sure I've got my audio good here before we get too deep into this. So last night, I had just put up a video on something else and was sitting there in the premiere of the video when the strikes by Israel against Iran started. And so got done with that around 4:30 this morning after I started live streaming this. And I couldn't go to sleep. Of course, I wanted to find out as much as I could about what was going on. So I didn't get to bed until around, 10 or 11 this morning. So I've only had about 4 hours sleep. So if I look haggard, sorry about that. That's how it goes. But I kept waking up to check my phone to see if there were any updates because I was expecting the Iranian retaliation to begin. And once it did, I went on to Twitter. I was thinking, you know what, I'll just sit here in bed and post to Twitter. And with 23,000 followers on Twitter, you'd think I could reach somebody, but no, I don't have any reach at all there. Let me pull up my Twitter account. So I was posting here at first thinking, well, I'll get some footage out. You can see there I've got 1 like, 2 likes, 1 like, 2 likes, 1 like, 2 likes. So I'm posting all these videos on Twitter and not getting any reach at all. So I decided, you know what, let me just hop on and live stream some of this and go through some of the social media stuff, and then I'll go back to bed because by then we'll probably have the this opening round of retaliatory strikes by Iran will probably be over by then. I also debated doing whether or not to do this because this is the kind of video that YouTube does not like. Since it's talking about war, definitely no monetization from advertising revenue, but whatever, who cares? That's not what this is about. We got to get the information out. So let's talk about what is going on. So Israel really, really hit Iran hard, effectively, very good precision strikes. They took out a lot of Iran's top military leadership, and that just shocked me that Iran did not seemingly have something in place, a protocol in place to quickly bring everyone up to speed, get everyone replaced. They had to know, having seen the way that Israel took out Hezbollah's leadership not once, but when they had their next tier moved up into the positions of authority, they get wiped out too. So surely Iran knew this was coming, but there was no immediate response. There was word that about 100 drones were launched from Iran, and that was just kind of a token thing. The USA and Jordan and possibly even Saudi Arabia had helped to take those out before they got anywhere close to Israel. I think only one drone made it into Israeli airspace, and it was quickly taken out. So that wasn't going to be Iran's response. And I have to admit, I've been kind of ticked off that Iran has not, until this, done much more than talk tough. And I was afraid that we were going to see Iran do the same thing that it has done in previous interactions with Israel, and that's do something very light, very proportionate, if that, and then say, look, it's over, let's be friends. But it appears that in these strikes, and we'll look at some video footage in a minute, they're not messing around. They really went for broke with this opening series of salvos into Israel. So let's take a look here at what Iran has done so far. First of all, I'll show you I'll show you some video footage from my channel, from my Twitter feed, and then we'll go to some others. These are just going to be some different clips. All right, here is very similar footage. That may even be the same footage. Sorry, I know you can't see that very good. Let's go down. Let's take a look at this one. This is the view from Nablus. I spent a little time in Nablus when I was over there. From Palestinian territory. But that's watching the missiles overhead. According to Israeli government officials, U.S. military is actively participating in the defense of Israel. So if there was any doubt whatsoever about whether or not Donald Trump was going to get involved, he absolutely is. I believe firmly that he had absolutely certain knowledge that this was coming. I do not think that it caught him off guard. I think that he was being very treacherous. I think that he has really shown the world, not just Israel, not just Iran, but North Korea, Russia, everybody knows with certainty now that you cannot trust the United States whatsoever. That if we say we're going to engage in diplomacy and we're going to hold off and make sure we keep Israel on a leash or whatever it may be, that's bullcrap. Because all along, they've been planning this. This was not, Israel's strike was so precise. There was so much intel there. Even though the Mossad has got a fantastic amount of intelligence work, this was beyond their capability alone. They have been planning this with the assistance of United States intelligence for a long time now, probably for the entire duration that Trump has been back in office. So when Trump last night went out and said, oh yeah, we're going to have a 6th round of talks, and I hope it's going to work out, and blah. He knew right then and there that this attack was imminent. And so that does huge damage to the U.S. reputation in the world. And hopefully it's going to do damage to Trump among at least some of his supporters who will wake up and realize, this guy, all his talk about how he's, peace and no foreign intervention and America first. It's Israel first, always has been, always will be.
וואי, זה נראה כמו זיקוקים. וואו, איזה יופי. אימא, לב, אימא, נופל. וואו. אימא, מה זה?
And I think that was the strike on the defense headquarters in Tel Aviv. There, where it hit. But we'll look at some other footage in a minute. Here we go. In the past, so many times when Hamas has fired off their rockets. These are little, not much bigger than firecrackers, what Hamas does. Tiny little things. They're not precision guided. They hit random places, and when they do strike something, it puts a little pothole in the ground. And Iron Dome is able to knock those out very easily. That's not what's happening here. These ballistic missiles, and you'll see some footage here in a minute of them just hitting over and over. Iron Dome is not able to take these out. At least not all of them. Watch this one, and at the end of this is some pretty good footage of the defense headquarters in Tel Aviv getting hit. So they're sending up interceptors from around the defense headquarters, the military defense headquarters in Israel, but they're not intercepting. Boom. Look at that. For those that don't know, Tel Aviv is kind of the New York City of Israel. It is their big financial center. Jerusalem, Tel Aviv has been the capital of Israel from the beginning, at least internationally recognized as its capital. They wanted to call Jerusalem their capital, and I guess they do, especially since Trump's first term, when the United States under Trump recognized Jerusalem as the undivided capital of Israel and moved the U.S. embassy there, and then shut down the U.S. consulate to the Palestinian Authority. But everything is really still concentrated in Tel Aviv. That's why Tel Aviv is being targeted. I've got some pictures of Tel Aviv from right outside. I was in Tel Aviv, but I got some good pictures of the skyline there from the beach, from the coastline. Down there to the south. Anyway. Now, I will say this. There is a possibility. I have not vetted every single one of these. Typically, what I see anytime there's some kind of military skirmish is that old footage from previous incidents gets mixed in and shared as if it's current stuff. So if you happen to see anything that you are pretty certain is old, let me know. Because I've not researched each one of these. I'm just kind of this real fluid, and I'm going along with what I'm seeing. But most of this, from what I can tell, is current. And someone pointed out in the comments that the other thing we're dealing with now is AI footage is popping up out there of things that aren't happening. And it really is making the fog of war even foggier. It was announced earlier by Iran that they shot down 2 Israeli Air Force jets during an earlier attack, and that they have taken one of the pilots, a female pilot, hostage. So they have her. John Bolton, good to see you. John was with us last night in the live stream. He says, brother, no need for Iron Dome when you literally have BB Bald Dome. With the rest of his brothers, Mad Ben and Smootrich. They can defend them, no problem. He's Mr. Security, all right. Yeah, I think that a lot of the people in Tel Aviv are really going to be shocked by this, by these strikes. Now, to Iran's credit, they are not targeting civilian infrastructure. Almost certainly they will have hit. In fact, I know that they've hit some civilian infrastructure there in Tel Aviv. But if they wanted to be causing mass casualties, they would not be targeting the government sites. They would not be targeting the military sites. They'd be exclusively trying to knock down apartment buildings. And clearly that's not what they're doing. So it is good that they are trying to avoid a lot of civilian casualties. But I expect that there are going to be a good number of Israeli casualties from this. You know, sorry, Israel, you did it first. You attacked, you killed children in Iran last night. This is how it goes. You're getting a taste of your own medicine. Look at this. One missile after another striking. Boom, boom, boom. Dozens of strikes. So there was the initial salvo that of about 100 missiles. This is, who knows how accurate this is what I'm hearing. About 100 missiles were fired. And then within an hour, another salvo was sent off. And then a third. Ernie Truth says, hi, Jake. We'll listen later. Thanks for pulling double duty. Hey, Ernie, good to see you, brother. Yeah, it's crazy. We're back on again. Ernie was with us during the live stream last night, too. Thank you, Ernie. Appreciate you so much. You and John are awesome. At least 7 ballistic missiles struck Tel Aviv in the first wave of attacks. And guys, you can go to @Morphonios on X. I've got 2. Let me put in the chat here. I've got 2 accounts. The one I used to use mostly was Morphonios. And they shut me down there where I don't get anything. The other one is just Blackstone Intel. That one I don't do as much on that, but they're in the chat now. Some photos here. Damage. In a second, I'm going to check my lists on Twitter and see what the most recent footage shows. No audio on this one. Look at that. Those supersonic missiles, they've got them. All right, let's start taking a look over here at some of the newer footage. Some stuff that I have not necessarily seen since it has come out while we've been talking here. This person says, I'm an American citizen. I stand with Iran. People are waking up. It's good to see so many Americans actually backing Iran over Israel. Probably for the first time we may see a majority of people, at least in social media, speaking out in defense of Iran rather than backing the genocidal regime of Zionist Israel. Some propaganda videos there. Breaking, the U.S. is trying to convince Iran to return to the nuclear talks. Hey, Squirrel and Wesson. Nothing unites people more than watching Tel Aviv get bombed, is what someone says. I may have shown this video already. This is the one where I wonder if it's old, but I'm not sure about that one. Iranian armed forces. Iran rejects all calls for restraint at this time. Blood for blood. Yeah, here's another view. All right. Let me switch to another list. Here's the people of Iran celebrating the strikes against Israel. Hey, John Benson says, thanks for all you do. Is this the start of World War III? I wouldn't. I could say yes and I could say no. I don't consider it the start of World War III at this point. I do consider it the start of what is probably going to be a protracted regional war. Typically how this works, how it's happened every other time, is Israel does some, Iran does some, everyone knows they need to calm down, and things settle down. But this is far more provocative, because what's going to happen now that Iran has hit Israel? Remember last time, Iran was very measured. It gave the United States and Israel fair warning. It allowed the United States to move its carrier group into the area so they could help intercept the missiles. And it wanted to show, it wanted to demonstrate, look what we can do if we want to target you. But I don't think that anyone was killed in that Iranian strike. And back in, I think it was November of 24, and they were mocked mercilessly by Israel and Israel supporters, saying, oh, look how ineffective they are. Well, they were not trying to hit. They were trying to show what they could do. Well, this time is different. This time they are hitting, and this time there will be Israeli casualties. And this, remember, Israel is kind of like the bully who just doesn't believe that anybody would dare to square up, and has not yet learned that it can get its ass kicked far easier than it overestimates its strength. So Israel is still emboldened. The people are not yet, based on what I've seen, this is not enough carnage to make the people of Israel turn on their government and say, this is not in our best interest, stop. It's not worth the price of our blood that we're going to have to pay for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, so stop it. It's not at that point. And so for the immediate period, what we're going to see are the people of Israel demanding that their government, which is very willing to do this, strike back, strike harder this time, and maybe even try and take out the supreme leader, the Ayatollah in Iran. And so even if they don't do that, there's going to be a major retaliatory strike. These are already planned. Israel already has its cards laid out. They know what they're going to do. They know which sites. They've already got the intel. The United States has already helped them pre-plan this. So it's ready to go, and they will do it. Possibly even tonight. Israel is not one to sit around and wait too long before they strike back. So this is not going to settle down as quickly as the last time back in November. And we have to wait and see what happens. Iran, I don't personally think, right from what I have seen of Iran, I think that they know what position they're in. They're not stupid. The United States, under Donald Trump, is saying, we'll destroy you. You hit our bases, you attack us, you attack America. We're going to do this. Well, America is an active participant fighting against Iran right now. Iran has every right to attack the United States, to hit our bases. The question is, will they do it? Because they know what the consequence is going to be. It's going to be that the USA is going to join in a full-scale regime change operation, and they're going to have to fight the USA in addition to Israel. So if you are Iran, what do you do in a situation like that? How do you defend your people? How do you stand up? Really, it comes down to Iran has to be willing to throw a Hail Mary pass with this. They have to be willing to go so hard that that it makes the United States and it makes Israel realize, damn, these people are willing to get wiped out to defend themselves. They are willing to stake everything on this. And are we really? Do we have that much motive to continue fighting against a party that's willing to act that way? And if Iran doesn't do that, I'm afraid that we're just going to see Israel come out on top of this, with escalating perhaps to the point that the only way they're going to get the nuclear bunkers in Iran that are deep underground is for tactical nukes to be used. And even then, you'd have to use a few of them to knock out the facility. You can hit the facade and the stuff up on top, but you're not going to, you can blow up the entryways, you can make it so it's going to be hard to get to it for a while, but you're not going to put it out of commission. And so I don't believe, I have not believed at any point that this is about trying to stop Iran's nuclear program. That's what Israel says. But what Israel wants is what Israel has always wanted. It's what Netanyahu has been calling for decades, and that is total regime change. They want to do to Iran what they did to Iraq. They want to remove the leader. They want to remove the government. They want to put in a puppet parliament to run the government, a parliament that's going to allow Western oil corporations to come in and take control of the Iranian oil assets. That's what the United States wants. What Israel wants is to get rid of the only opposition to their geopolitical expansion in the region. They know that Iran's the last man standing. No one else is going to stand up to them. Egypt isn't. Jordan isn't. Jordan actually, I think that when Iran is done teaching a lesson to Tel Aviv, I think they ought to drop a missile into the middle of King Abdullah II's palace in Jordan, because that guy is not on the side of the Palestinian people. He's not on the side of Iran, certainly. He's a traitor. He's a traitor. He helps Israel at every turn to attack Iran. So anyway, let me take a look here. John Bolton, imagine if they hit Pollard. You think Trump will mourn him like my old brave hero of the USA? Like my old friend John McCain, may he smile down on us from heaven. John, the things you make me say in a live stream that people can screen grab and use against me. Look, Jake is praising John McCain. Thanks, man. You're hilarious. And Eric Hatchett, thank you so much, brother, for that donation. Listen, I in my little goal thing up there at the top of the chat box, I have my email address. If you can't see it, it is jake@blackstoneintel.com. Anyone who makes a donation of $5 or more You're welcome to email me with your contact information and tell me what your handle is in the chat where you made the donation. And you just send me your address or whatever. I'd be glad to send you a personal letter of thanks. Nothing fancy, just a letter from me. But anyway, let's go ahead and look a little bit more of this. Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate it, brother. Let's see, what else have we got here? Let me reload this page and then... Lebanese celebrate Iran's retaliatory missile operation against the Zionist regime. And there will be major celebrations across the Levant. It's going to be in Syria and Iraq, Yemen, probably Saudi Arabia, cheering for, at least the people cheering for Iran, even though they have been in a proxy war against Iran for a handful of years now. Let's see. Yemeni crowd erupts in cheers. Hey, thank you, Katie Campbell. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much for that donation. And of course, Israel is saying Iran made a grave mistake targeting Tel Aviv. Actions have consequences, and now they'll face them. I do think that Israel is gonna have a very nasty response to this. I think they are going to hit Iran very hard. I think that it's going to dwarf what we saw in Israel's opening strikes. I think they're going to try and hit more reactor sites, more bases. But Iran has the opportunity to hit Israel some more at this point. If it were me, I would want to not have this tit for tat, proportionate back and forth, whatever. I would want to demonstrate overwhelming firepower to make them think, oh, dang, if this is what's going to happen to us when we hit them, maybe we ought to think twice about hitting them again. But that has not been Iran's practice in the past, so we'll see. If you're out there, even though I can't see you, you're welcome to raise your hand in solidarity with whatever Rahida Malik is saying here. All right, let's turn to another list. See if there's anything new. Get some new video footage here, hopefully. All right, Iran has executed a large ballistic missile attack on Israel with multiple missiles impacting amidst a barrage of interceptors. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has called on the Iranian people to take to the streets and rise up against the regime. He stressed that as Israeli forces advance toward their strategic objectives, they are simultaneously helping to clear the path for blah, blah, blah. Yeah, go out into the streets, says Netanyahu. What do you think he's going to do? He's going to try and smash them as soon as they get out in the streets, because that's what Zionists do. That's how they behave. Casualties from the Iranian ballistic missile attack against Israel has risen to 40 injuries, 2 in critical condition. Israeli security cabinet meeting in an undisclosed secure location. They're not surprised by any of this. They knew what Iran's response would be. I don't think that Iran has done anything yet that is unexpected. Parts of either an interceptor or an Iranian ballistic missile fell earlier in Tel Aviv. Minor damage, no injuries. Rafael Grossi. Now, I'll tell you, the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, is very much allied with Israel. It didn't used to be. It used to be more neutral. But this is a watchdog group that monitors, but they have become, over the last year or so, basically a propaganda outlet for Israel. But anyway, they are saying that the above ground facility at Natanz, used for enriching uranium up to 60%, has been destroyed, resulting in radiological and chemical contamination inside the site. No indication of a direct attack on the underground enrichment halls. Damage to the power supply may have affected centrifuges. So, like I'm saying, it's going to be very hard for Israel to take out any of Iran's underground facilities in any meaningful way without tactical nukes. But you know what? I would not be surprised if that is on the agenda. I don't think that is beyond Israel's nuttiness to utilize. Two U.S. officials confirmed to Reuters that the U.S. helped shoot down a number of ballistic missiles launched by Iran earlier. We are aware of reports circulating on Iranian news channels suggesting that Iran may be preparing to conduct a nuclear test tonight. Rest assured, the IDF and Mossad have been closely monitoring the situation and will neutralize any potential threat. I think that's propaganda. I think that's Zionist propaganda they're putting out. And we listened to the video in the live stream last night of Netanyahu's little propaganda remarks at the outset of all of this. And he admitted in it, he said, we don't know when they could have a nuclear bomb. It could be a year from now. They don't know. Actually, they do know. They know that that even if you have the enrich the uranium, you still have to be able to build the components and everything. You have to assemble the warhead, and they are not there. They're not in a position to do that. It would be a while. There was absolutely no justification for this. Iran was not on the verge of having a usable nuclear weapon that could be used against anyone. It's just not true. Just not true. Negotiations could have resulted in some breakthrough. The original talk from Trump, which now appears to have all been bullcrap from the beginning, but basically what Trump was doing or talking about doing was just copy and pasting Obama's Iran deal that he had pulled out of, because that's the only thing Iran's going to go back to. Iran is not going to go and say we're going to give up our nuclear energy program, but that's what they wanted. That's what the Zionists wanted. And so U.S. negotiations with Iran, while they started out looking like they were in good faith, and originally Trump was saying, yeah, they should be able to have a program where they can develop nuclear energy for their country. That's what Trump said. And then they switched it. During the negotiations, under pressure from Israel, it became, you know what? You have to give up everything related to your nuclear program. You cannot have nuclear energy. You can't do anything. And I believe that switch was made consciously. I think that it was pre-planned. I think that it was intended to give the appearance that Iran is not even trying. We were acting in good faith, and they have just walked out of nuclear talks Now we have no choice but to attack them. I think it was all a manufactured pretext. All of this, what Trump has done with the nuclear talks, I think all along the knowledge and intent has been regime change in Iran, and this has just been a big show. Rescue teams in Tel Aviv sweeping buildings. I think we saw this one earlier. Boom. That was the one that hit the Ministry of Defense headquarters. Here's some damage to apartments. And this is mostly damage to the facade. There could be some casualties. There could be some fatalities. But when you think about what we see in Gaza, we see this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. This is what you see in Gaza initially, before Israel comes back and collapses the entire structure because they didn't take it out the first time. So even though I don't like violence, it is satisfying to see an aggressive occupation, genocidal regime, and the society that fully supports it being on the receiving end of some of the kinds of things that they do to other people. That's just, I think, human nature. We don't like injustice. We don't like to see innocent people, women and children, unarmed civilians being massacred by a bunch of extremists like the Zionists in Israel. Of course, you know what everything's going to be in social media. It's going to be all of these people who are praising Iran or whatever. It's only because they hate Jews. That's the only reason. See, this is why we need to destroy Iran because... And next, we've got to go out because everyone in the world is trying to destroy us. Look, here's my victim card. Oh, we're such victims. While completely ignoring everything that they have done to bring the wrath of the international community down on them. Be like Charles Manson after the Sharon Tate murders, pleading to the camera for people's understanding. You just don't get me. You just don't understand. I've not done anything wrong. All of this hatred against me is bigotry. All of your statements, it just wounds my tender heart. But that's the mentality of psychopaths. CNN reports that Israel is expected to escalate its strikes against Iran, destroying economic and infrastructure targets such as oil and natural gas facilities, as well as ports in response to tonight's Iranian ballistic missiles attack, which appear to have mainly targeted population centers in Israel. If you're sending hundreds of ballistic missiles at a population center and you don't have any fatalities, maybe you weren't targeting the population center. But we can't really rely on Western media to use any logic here. There's old Trump. Let's see what else we got here. U.S. Army is assisting in shooting down incoming Iranian missiles with Patriot PAC-3 missiles and with THAAD, official tell Fox. Crown Prince and the U.S. President discussed the importance of restraint, de-escalation, and resolving all disputes through diplomatic means. Yeah. So the message has to be, oh yeah, Iran is definitely targeting civilian population centers because the next phase, what Israel wants to do is they want to lop off the heads of the entire government. They want to kill the president of Iran. They want to, well, he's the last one they want to kill because the current president of Iran is a lot more of a pacifist, a lot less aggressive in his rhetoric and in his positions toward Israel. So they don't necessarily want to get rid of him and have him replaced with someone even worse. But what does it matter if you're gonna if Israel kills the Ayatollah? It would be interesting to see if he's Shiite, so it's not like the Sunni nations have any fealty to him. But the fact that they would go after any Muslim leader like that, who knows? Who knows? I'm not seeing so far any substantive efforts by anybody in the Arab world to take a stand alongside Iran against Israel. Not seeing anything yet. Who knows? Maybe that'll change. China condemns Israel's attack on Iran's sovereignty. Let's see. Let's watch this one.
Okay. Yo! Yo! יא בני זונות, יו אני בהלם. אני בהלם. אני בהלם. יו. אני בשוק. אני פאקינג בשוק. אני פאקינג בשוק.
All right. Oil prices jumped to $72.98 a barrel. If Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, 20% of global oil gets choked off, prices spike, markets destabilize. Mariam Barghouti, Israel is not only waging a regional war, but Israeli paramilitary groups in the West Bank, joined with Israeli forces, are carrying out violent acts against Palestinians. In the north, the Israeli army is taking over civilian homes, kicking families out, and turning the homes into military bases. In the center, areas in Ramallah, Israeli settlers are carrying out large-scale attacks against Palestinian families. In the south areas in Hebron, armed Israeli militias are carrying out attacks against Palestinians. You know, the Jews talk a lot about the pogroms during World War II. And it's really awful, very disappointing to see that here we are, not even 100 years later, and they are carrying out their own pogroms against an unarmed population. And the victims have become the perpetrators. It's such an awful thing to see. So regardless of what has happened in the past, it does not justify you becoming the evil that once was used against you. But I've seen them there. My first night in Jerusalem. So I flew over there, and my first night was going to be the only night I was going to spend in Jerusalem. And the reason why I spent the first night in Jerusalem, in West Jerusalem, is because flying in, there were going to be questions potentially about what my purpose is there, and the others that I was with. You know, what are you there for? And if the first night, if it shows you coming in and they look to see where you're staying, and they do check your papers, and your first night is going to be in the West Bank, well, that doesn't look good. So the first night, the first hotel night was booked for the in West Jerusalem, with kind of the cover that I'm a Christian tourist there to tour holy sites. But that night, I knew it was probably going to be the only chance for me to just get over to the Mount of Olives and visit there, having read much of my life about the stories in the New Testament. I wanted to go see the area for myself. So I got a taxi and went over there. And it was nighttime and it was kind of late. And I thought, this could be ugly, but we'll see. And I got up there at the Mount of Olives, and it kind of is sitting across valley from the Temple Mount, from Al-Aqsa Mosque. And I was up there taking pictures, just walking around by myself amidst some of the olive trees. And right behind me was a settlement, Israeli settlement. And all of the settlements, they've got bars, barbed wire, rolls, just security cameras. Well, I'm standing there, no one else around anywhere. And this car pulls up, little red car pulls up, and a handful of 4 Israeli settlers get out. You know, they got the beanies and the side curls, and they take some steps toward me, and I'm standing there. I've got my camera on a tripod. I also had something else with me for protection in case it came to that. But they just stood there, and we just looked at each other, and I thought, what are these guys going to do? Because they didn't know me, but I was a tourist, I guess. But just the seething anger in their eyes that I was there in that area. Public place. It was a place that during the daytime is brimming with tourists. It's not like I was in some unusual area. Well, they got back in the car and drove off. But a few minutes later, as I was walking through a path that kind of winds through the Mount of Olives, these teenagers came along and circled me. They formed a circle around me. And these Jewish kids, I thought, they're just think it's funny that here's some tourist, whatever, no big deal. And they're giggling kind of and talking, but then they started doing the same thing. They got kind of aggressive, and I thought, gee whiz, here I am. Am I going to have to smack some kids around my first night in Israel and get myself thrown into a gulag? But they ended up leaving. They kept kind of coming back a little bit and laughing and pointing fingers, but they'd go off, and they didn't do anything. But I was like, this is going to be a rough trip. Well, I don't know if it was the next day, or I think it was the next day. No. It was a couple days later. So I spent the rest of the 10 days from that trip in Ramallah, in a hotel there. But come back to East Jerusalem, and there were a bunch of different areas where I'd walk through with a guide some of the time, talking about history, and we walked through this area where the kind of 2-3 story tall cement apartments built that kind of overlook down on the ground going through the old city. They've got bars on it and everything. Well, you would see these settlers kind of come up to the window and look. Nothing friendly about them. But at one point, I feel something. I'm like, what? I turn around and I didn't see the person. But you have that sense somebody's up there. I'm like, did somebody just throw something at me? So I turned around, and a minute later, again, I got pelted with a handful of pebbles. They weren't big. It wasn't enough to do any damage or anything. from the same window, from the home of a settler. And they probably couldn't throw anything a whole lot bigger because of the bars on the windows. I don't know. But that was the mentality. I did have at one point, I think it was when I was in Jaffa, not far from Tel Aviv. There was an Israeli man who came up and was yelling, "You don't believe anything the Palestinians say, they are all liars," and blah, blah, blah. I've got some of it on video because I was recording something else when he came up to me. Just as a society, they were hateful. Everywhere I went, they were hateful. And yet, every single place that I went in the Palestinian territories, whether it was East Jerusalem, the West Bank, everybody was as nice and friendly as they could be. And not one person, and I asked tons of people, because this is a, kind of a fact-finding mission. I wanted to learn. And not one person, when I asked them about their views about the conflict and Jews, not one person said that they hated Jews. They all said, we want peace. We just want peace. We just want them to stop raiding our homes. We want them to stop choking off our water so that we can have access to water. We want them to stop seeing us as terrorists. We just want to be normal people and have normal lives. No one expressed hate. I talked to farmers. I talked to random people on the street. A very, very different experience between the average Israeli citizen that I talked to and the average Palestinian that I talked to. Very different. But anyway, let's see here. Yeah, we'll be hearing a lot more about this. Trump's pretend diplomacy enabled Israel's war on Iran. He went along with this, lying to the people. Lying to the American people, giving his own supporters the impression that he was working toward peace, while behind the scenes, he's plotting and scheming with Israel. I'm not seeing a whole lot of new activity here, but we'll just keep scrolling for another minute. 35 people wounded in the ballistic missile attacks, according to medical officials. One woman in critical condition, 4 others moderately hurt. If they don't have fatalities, civilian fatalities, it's astounding, considering how densely packed Tel Aviv is, to be able to strike dozens of targets and not kill a single civilian. I think Iran is really trying to avoid escalating, and normally I think that's a good idea, but not anymore, not with Israel, not knowing what they intend to do. Let's see, is this damage in Tel Aviv? I think that before it's over, we'll have some reports of where there have been at least a few fatalities. All right, well, not seeing a whole lot of new footage, so it could be that the salvos are over for now. Let's see. People in Gaza celebrating. Oh yeah, this was something interesting. There were people putting out videos saying that Iranian subs launched missiles, including the this site, which I don't know if this is an official site. People are community noting it, saying it's a 3-year-old video of a Russian sub firing missiles at Ukraine. I think that it is unlikely that it's an Iranian sub. Iran's only got 19 subs, so it's possible they do have some submarines, but I don't have any confirmation. This does say Euro News, so I don't know. I've seen that. I haven't taken the time to look into it. Abby Martin says Israel has assassinated scientists in Iran for years while media justified it by lying about Iran's nuclear program. U.S. Israel are the nuclear-armed aggressors trying to provoke war. Iran has the right to defend itself, but has shown enormous restraint so far. Whatever horrors ensue, the United States is to blame for holding the world hostage and plunging us into the abyss. China, Russia, North Korea, Pakistan have announced full support for Iran, pledging military assistance and all aid necessary. I don't know that that's true. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's not true. All right, so that's all of the stuff that I've got from social media at the moment. We'll keep watching. Footage showing an Iranian one-way drone being downed earlier by an Apache helicopter. The drones are easier to take out with the Apaches than other aerial vehicles. 10 minutes ago, Israeli strikes against Iran appear to have resumed, with air defense activity and explosions now being reported over Tehran. So, who knows? Maybe we'll see something here in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and flip my screen so I can do some stuff in the background here. Let me check the chat too. David Mohammed, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. David, I mentioned to folks earlier, my email address is jake@blackstoneintel.com. If anyone who makes a donation, $5 or more, wants a letter from me, just email me your contact. I'd be glad to send you personal thanks. Hey, Iron Man Metal, good to see you again. Yeah, I saw the news that his jet went to Greece. I don't know yet if Netanyahu himself went to Greece. It's possible that that it's a ploy, that he didn't actually go to Greece. But it could be. It could be. He is a coward, but they do have underground bunkers where he could hunker down there in Israel. He doesn't have to go to Greece to be safe. He could be safe there in Israel. So I don't know, but they did at least his jet was flown to Greece. I think it's possible it's more like they did with a lot of like El Al Airlines and some of the other Israeli commercial airlines. They flew their planes out of Israel so that if Ben Gurion Airport gets targeted, it's not going to do damage to their fleets. So it could be that they were just trying to protect Netanyahu's jet from being targeted. I'm going to check over here, see if there's anything on Al Jazeera. Iran's president tells Putin nuclear arms not part of Tehran's plans. After this, it may be. fears that a building in Tel Aviv could collapse. Israeli attacks could push Iran to pursue nuclear weapon. And of course, Trump had said previously, it's not too late for Iran to stop. Iran. Yeah, Israel is saying that Iran has crossed a red line and they're going to pay a very heavy price. All pre-scripted, all predetermined. They were going to do whatever Israel does next, they were going to do regardless of anything. If Iran didn't respond at all to Israel's first wave of attacks, Israel still would have carried out a second wave of attacks. And they did to prevent, because of the Mossad's duplicity and frankly their effectiveness. One of the things that Iran has done is shut down a lot of the internet in the country because one of the things that I've seen in the past years ago that the CIA does is the CIA has got a lot of assets. There are a lot of groups that would love to see the overthrow of the Iranian regime. And the CIA gets in and agitates and tries to get these people out into the streets to basically do what they did in Maidan Square in Kiev. Cause so much chaos and trouble and force the government to put out police or troops to hold off the protesters and then escalate things until you end up like you saw in 2014 with the overthrow of the government. That's the CIA. The flipping of Kiev from Yanukovych, from the pro-Russian president, over to the puppet regime that was installed later. That was 100% a CIA operation. But anyway, I'm just saying some notes here or there that there are new strikes taking place in Iran. Trump's deployment of the National Guard to Los Angeles will be the first, perhaps, of many, he told reporters this week. Explosions reported in Tehran. Egypt, Libya stop activist gathering for March to Gaza, organizers say. David, thank you. Thanks again, David, for that donation a few minutes ago. I really, really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I thank you for your support. Of course, doing this is my goal is to go back to doing this full time. And since I don't get ad revenue like I used to, at the height of my Blackstone days before they demonetized me, I was making a decent income because my videos weren't being suppressed by the shadow banning or algorithmic censorship. And ads were my account was fully monetized. And I was talking about this kind of stuff. Same thing I do now, nothing outrageous, but I got ad revenue. And so that made it possible for me to then go to this full time and build it from there. But I can't do it. I can't do this full time on that. I do rely on donations. in lieu of those that ad revenue. So thank you guys. You are making it possible for me to do this, to put more time into it. If I don't put time into it, it's not because I don't want to. It's because I can't afford to. It's because I've got to continue my other things that I do for income, and can't do them all at the same time. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. And it's also a statement. When you make these donations, you're making a public statement saying, I feel strongly about this. It's not just that I like Jake. It's that someone is speaking out for things that I believe in, for being against war, certainly for speaking out against the brutality of Israel against the Palestinians and Iranians and others. So thank you. I appreciate you guys. I feel like we're on a team. And while I'm mentioning it, let me go ahead and put into the chat Blackstone Intel .substack.com. During the live stream last night, I put my Substack link in the chat, and several people signed up. I do have a mailing list. It's around roughly 9,400 people on the mailing list that I keep trying to grow. You can go there. Don't just follow my account. Subscribe. You can subscribe for free. On the free account, I don't put out a whole lot of stuff, but some alerts. It's basically a way that I can do an occasional communication with people who follow me and maintain contact, especially in case I get knocked off of YouTube or something. I can let you know, well, here's where I've gone to, here's where my new content is. But also there's the paid option, and I do have a handful of people that are subscribed, and each week I'm going to be putting out at least one or two exclusive Blackstone reports that are not in video format, that you won't find anywhere else. Me talking about issues of the day, maybe some history, things like that. So I'd appreciate that. If you are if you listen to podcasts, I'm also starting back doing podcasting. You can go to iTunes, Spotify, Apple, whatever podcast service you use, and search for Blackstone Intel Report. Go down to the podcast section and you'll find me there. Go ahead and follow my podcast if you would. I'm going to do a quick scroll through again here and see if we've got any new developments. Another report here saying there is 1 dead, 44 injured in Iranian attacks on Israel. Let me see if I can open this screen up a little bit bigger. So this is from Tel Aviv. It's like an apartment that got knocked over. Look at that. That's pretty significant damage. I guess it's not knocked over. I thought it was on its side. That's just damage to, what is that, about 2 stories, 3 stories? Unprecedented. Let's see. Dare I click on that? I better. Well, unprecedented destruction in Tel Aviv following True Promise 3. I'm not seeing any photos there that are different from what we've already seen. General Ahmad Vahidi says at least 150 targets were hit in the Operation True Promise 3. We saw that earlier. Air defense is active again over Tehran. And I had heard, I'm not saying much about it, but I read earlier somewhere that some of the targeting of Israel included strikes against its nuclear site. So I don't have a whole lot on that yet, but it sounds like they tried to do some damage to Israel's nuclear site, or one of them. Some more footage from Tehran. I think that's the one we just saw a minute ago.
خب حالا دوران داریم رو میریم وای آره نگاه کن ما دوران داریم لذت میبریم خاک به سرم به خدا جدی میگم الان میزنن اینجا ما همه با هم هستیم
What else have we got? It may be a while before we see much from much footage coming out of Tehran. We saw that one a few times. All right, well, I don't see a whole lot of new stuff here. What is this? Channel 12, 300 Israelis whose homes were damaged in greater Tel Aviv were evacuated. Gaza is under full blackout. Only those who have eSIMs are able to barely stay connected. Israel claims at least 20 Iranian commanders killed. Let's see here. All right, well, switch back over here. All right, so that's where things are at now. I think that I'll probably wrap it up here in just a minute so that I can maybe come back later on if there's more tonight. Maybe live stream again when there's more developments. Right now, there's just not a whole lot else going on. But anyway, so to those of you who donated, we almost met our goal. Four out of 5 super chats, so we were close. But you know what? Based on a couple of you gave really generous donations, we'll count it as having met that goal. So I appreciate it, guys. Oh, and there's John Benson. Thanks for all you do. Oh wait, that's an old one. You asked earlier about the start of World War III. Sorry, I skipped backwards. Sander Clegane, the mountain that rides, the mountain who rides. Thank you for your help moderating. And thank you guys for the chats. I do often go back and skim through the chat. I can't follow it all while I'm doing this live, but I do usually go back and look through, so I often do see everyone's comments after the fact. Sorry if you were talking to me and I missed what you were saying. But anyway, so you guys are welcome to hit the like button there on your way out before I shut down. And if you would, check out my other videos from this past week. I'm trying to get as many views as I can on these videos so that I can get the system seeing that I'm alive, I'm active, I'm trying to reach out to my people. So anything you can do to help me get bumped up in that algorithm, the better. All right, everybody. I think that's going to be it. Thank you so much. And more than likely, I'll be talking to you again this evening. Don't forget, Substack, blackstoneintel.substack.com. And for $1 or more in support on Patreon, you get access to my transcripts, not from these live streams. It's too long for me to transcribe all that. But for my normal Blackstone report videos, I take all of the main points, the data, I work it up into a report, and often I'll have some links and sources there to go along with it, and I publish it. You get that on Substack as a paid member, but also on Patreon. The number one thing that would be supportive is getting set up on Patreon as a supporter. I've got different tiers there. So thank you guys, and I'll probably see you again later today. Take care.